right, we're 1 minute out.
All right.
Got you for sure.
Hello, everyone.
There we go.
I'm going to wait till our staffs get a seat. Good morning, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Terri Sewell. I proudly represent Alabama's 7th Congressional District, which includes the historic cities of Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and my hometown of Selma, Alabama. I want to thank my colleagues for joining me today. We are here to pay tribute to a civil rights icon and an American heroine from my home state of Alabama, Miss Rosa Parks, as she celebrates her 112th, what would have been her 112th birthday. Rosa Parks' legacy is one of remarkable bravery and fortitude. By simply refusing to give up her seat on a segregated bus, she stood up for the values that this nation holds dear. Her quiet, distinguished courage set the stage for the historic Montgomery bus boycott and galvanized a movement that changed the very fabric of our nation. That's why I'm so excited to have reintroduced legislation in the House to designate December 1st as a federal holiday commemorating her historic arrest in Montgomery, Alabama. Each year, Rosa Parks Day will serve as a powerful reminder of the fight for justice that took place in Montgomery, Alabama. Moreover, it will become the first federal holiday to honor a woman, let alone a Black woman. This bill is especially important given the attacks by the Trump administration on our history, the history of African Americans. Sadly, we know that efforts are afoot to erase our history and roll back the progress that so many of our ancestors fought and died for. We all have seen the terrible news. Purges of federal employees who work to make our government more diverse and inclusive. Agency websites wiped of information promoting equity and fairness. The banning of books, new barriers to the ballot box, and the list goes on and on. Most recently, on February 1st, the Trump administration even banned the Defense Intelligence Agency from observing Black History Month and Martin Luther King Day. And just last month, we learned that the history of the Tuskegee Airmen from my home state of Alabama had been removed from the Air Force curriculum before being restored after public backlash. Americans should see these attacks for what they are, an attempt to whitewash our history and devalue the contributions of African Americans. They are under attack on all of us. Their attack is an attack on all of us and the values that make this nation great. In times like these, it is important, especially for us to tell our story and to recognize the contributions of amazing leaders like Rosa Parks. Her legacy is a part of American history and should be celebrated as the important part of American history. By honoring her with a new federal holiday, we can ensure that what happened in Montgomery and Selma and Birmingham is never, ever erased or forgotten, no matter how hard some extremists may try. Each year, Rosa Parks Day will serve as a reminder of the power of ordinary Americans to achieve extraordinary social change. And each year, Americans, young and old, can draw inspiration from her legacy in the continued struggle for equality and justice. This effort is very personal to me. I get to stand here as Alabama's first Black Congresswoman because amazing freedom fighters like Rosa Parks were unafraid to challenge the status quo and to make this nation live up to its highest ideals of equality and justice for all. As women of the Congressional Black Caucus, we stand on her shoulders, and I can think of no one more befitting to honor with a new federal holiday. With that in mind, I want to thank my colleagues for their support. Our bill, which was introduced last evening, already has 57 co-sponsors in the House. We look forward to harnessing the momentum to get it across the finish line, and it is our hope that we can do so in a bipartisan way. I will now yield to my friend and colleague from Ohio, the former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and the leader in the state of Ohio when she was majority leader in the state legislature to make Rosa Parks Day a state holiday in the state of Ohio. Miss Joyce Beatty.
Thank you so much. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. I am so proud to be a co-sponsor of the Rosa Parks Day Act to make, as you've heard, December the 1st a federal holiday, honoring a woman whose courage changed the history and brought America closer to its highest ideals. On December 1st, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama. That single act ignited the Montgomery bus boycott, a movement that helped dismantle segregation and pushed America forward on its democratic journey. But Rosa Parks was more than just one moment. She was a lifetime warrior for justice, an NAACP leader, an advocate against racial violence, and a champion for voting rights. In 2005, as a member of the Ohio General Assembly, I led the fight to make Ohio the very first state in the nation to recognize Rosa Parks Day. And it was a proud moment for me then, but even more so when I came to the Congress and realized that Congressman John Conyers, her lifelong friend, had only done a resolution and I had a bill, making me the first. And our bill passed unanimously, bipartisan support, because it was honoring Rosa Parks is not a partisan issue. For nearly 2 decades, Ohio's Rosa Parks Tribute has engaged thousands of children, educators, and community leaders. That is the power of a holiday like this. It's not just a day off. It's a day to teach, to reflect, and to encourage that every child in America knows Rosa Parks, understands her impact, and carries forward her call to justice. As America nears its 250th birthday, we must recognize not only our founding fathers, but also the mothers of our democracy. Women like Rosa Parks, who pushed America towards a more perfect union. Yet, not a single federal holiday honors a woman. We believe that must change. And today, President Trump and MAGA extremists are trying to erase Black heroes like Rosa Parks and their stories from our history books and national memory. They are censoring the conversations around those stories and rewriting history. We cannot allow that to happen. As we continue to fight for equality, we will ensure that Rosa Parks' legacy is honored, that it is taught, and that it is never forgotten. It's time for Congress to act. Let's pass the Rosa Parks Day Act, and let's give this American hero, no, this American shero, the national recognition that she deserves. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you, Congresswoman Beatty. Now, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, none other than Yvette Clarke, the woman, the warrior from Brooklyn.
So, Black history is American history. Let me start by saying greetings and good morning to everyone. I am Congresswoman Yvette D. Clarke, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus and proud representative of New York's 9th Congressional District, located in Brooklyn. Let me thank my dear friend and colleague, Congresswoman Sewell, for convening today's press conference on behalf of a cause so dear to each of our hearts. And thank you to my dear colleagues, Representative Beatty and Representative Figures, for standing at our side today. Let me begin by wishing a belated and heavenly birthday to one of our civil rights sheroes, the singular Rosa Parks, a woman whose unparalleled courage, tenacity, and resistance against the unbearable injustices of the Jim Crow era continues to inspire us to this day as we carry her torch and continue our own pursuit of equality. How befitting it is that during Black History Month, we would be standing before you today to announce legislation to designate December 1st as a federal holiday, permanently memorializing the sacrifice, the heroism of Rosa Parks in her fight against racial injustice during the Jim Crow era in Montgomery, Alabama. With Rosa's unprecedented act of defiance, the Montgomery bus boycott was born, and the path to good trouble was paved. And it is particularly poignant that as we observe this Black History Month and acknowledge the progress and advancement and the rights those who blazed the trail we walk today achieved, that we too must confront the trials of inequality and injustice that our heroes, like Rosa Parks, devoted their lives to overcoming. So let us be clear, we cannot stand by as the dark forces leading this nation attempt to roll back over 60 years of civil rights. We cannot stand by as the attempt to make the sacrifices of Rosa Parks and Dr. King and all those who came before us in vain. We cannot stand by as they try to change the story of America and erase the people who contributed significantly to this nation. That can't happen. History is written. We must use this moment to channel the hope that so many of our ancestors fought to obtain, the hope that we may one day be free from the grip of oppression and tyranny, and free to live in a democratic society that loves all of its children equally. So no, we will not stand by while they try to erase us. The struggle continues. Thank you for listening.
And lastly, the newest member of the Alabama delegation, my friend, my fellow Democrat, Shamari Figures.
Thank you, Congresswoman Sewell and former chair Beatty and current chair Yvette Clarke. I stand before you today as the congressman who represents Rosa Parks' birthplace of Tuskegee, as well as Montgomery, Alabama, where she did what came to be known to the world as the birthplace of the civil rights movement. And Rosa Parks is more than just a civil rights icon. She is more than just a Black icon. She is an American icon. Yes. A woman of such courage and conviction and bravery and decency and distinction, humility and grace. A woman who embodied the principle of the true greatness of America is the right to protest for right, as Martin Luther King said. And through her deeds, she gave birth to a movement that led to not only myself, but also ultimately to Congresswoman Sewell's, our ability to be able to stand here today and so many other members of Congress, because the civil rights movement gave birth to access to rights that many African Americans had not had access to before that. And so I stand here today grateful for Ms. Parks, and I can think of no greater way to honor her sacrifice, her dedication, her commitment to the furtherance of humanity than to name a federal holiday for Mrs. Parks. It would be no greater honor, no greater distinction, and I can think of no one that is more worthy of this honor. And so I stand here in full support of this idea because Rosa Parks is the one. She is the one of many. But her deed is certainly one that required America to look in the mirror and ultimately be true to what is said on paper. And that is something that is worth acknowledging. That is something that is worth honoring. And that is something that I am proud to stand in support of. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. I want to thank my colleagues for joining me. This is a fight that we will continue until we get it passed. We know that our foremothers and forefathers fought for Martin Luther King's birthday being a federal holiday for a very long time, and we will not be deterred. We will not be discouraged. If anything, the actions of this administration have given us a greater resolve to make sure that we celebrate and that we honor the contributions of African Americans, these freedom fighters that ultimately help this country be its very best and live up to its highest ideals. With that, I'll open it up for questions. Yes.
You did bring up some obviously very recent examples of why this is important, but can you just talk in general about why it is so complicated to pass a federal holiday? I mean, before Juneteenth, it was MLK Day.
Yes. Well, first, let me just say that the current administration's efforts to whitewash African American contributions in history has been played out in the media so starkly. I woke up on Saturday morning to news that the Department of Defense, the Air Force, was no longer going to teach the history, the very proud American and Alabama history of Tuskegee Airmen. To see that they also issued an edict that that the Defense Intelligence Agency could not celebrate Black History Month. February is Black History Month. Now, we know that we have to celebrate our history 365 days of the year, but this month is sacred. And this month is an opportunity for America to acknowledge, to be inspired by the contributions of African Americans. And so while we know that the path is long, and it's long because it has to not only gain bipartisan support here in the House and in the Senate, we also know that may be particularly difficult given the time that we live in. But I can tell you that we in the Congressional Black Caucus, we in the Alabama delegation, will work tirelessly to make this bill a reality. Yes.
Can you touch on just more of the importance of pushing for this day, considering the DEI initiatives that are under attack by President Trump right now?
I'll let some of my other colleagues answer.
Well, no, go ahead.
Well, at the end of the day, we have to speak truth and facts to the American people. And this is a moment where there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, suppression of the American people and their desire to be reflected in the society they help to build. And so what we are saying is that in the face of all of that, we are introducing legislation. And that legislation is a reflection of the struggle towards a more perfect union, started by just a woman wanting to sit down on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. And it sparked a movement that has me standing here today, has these folks standing here today. That's fact. That's not misinformation. That's not disinformation. And you know what? It happened right here in the United States of America because we made it so. And so for all that this administration is trying to perpetrate on the American people, we know truth from fact because our eyes don't lie.
I think the only thing I'd like to add to that question is when we're looking at what's happening, as you mentioned, with diversity, equity, and inclusion being taken away. I think this is so important at this critical time because it allows our young people, Black, white, and brown, to have a part of American history to be celebrated and to be celebrated by a woman who did so much. You know, her taking her rightful place in the colored section of that bus and refusing to get up for a white man because the bus was full. She was sitting in the spot where she was allowed to sit. And she knew she was going to be arrested. But I think it says, especially to young girls, not only did she do that, but because of that one act of courage, for 365 days, people refused to get on that bus. People walked. People only rode with Black taxi drivers and with Black families. And so I think it sends a strong message of what we can do as women, what we can do as communities, what we can do when we are united to realize that that's our strength. And I think it's so important now, more than ever, for us to be able to talk about successes and successes around not only Black history, American history that's led by Black folks.
Very good. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, if there are no other questions, we're going to ask Shamari Figures, our newest member of Congress, to close us out.
Thank you. I am, again, thrilled and honored and thankful to Congresswoman Sewell and Congresswomen Beatty and Clark for prioritizing this issue, for giving Ms. Parks the day that she should have and the day that we should have as Americans. It is important for us not to forget from whence we come. It is important for us to remember where we came from, what we went through, and how we got to where we are as Americans. Not every chapter of that story paints a beautiful picture of who we once were. But it is important that we are reminded of where we've been to guide where we go. And as we are seeing this current administration take steps to categorically roll back civil rights protections, it is fundamentally important that we stand up, remind people, re-educate people, and honor the people who helped us pull us out, who helped pull this nation out of one of its darkest chapters. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Yes, thank you, guys.